So, again, I'll remind myself and you to give rise to this bodhicitta intention as the underlying attitude as you listen to the teachings. And of course, from time to time, notice whether that attitude is present and refresh again and again to make a habit out of it. Okay. So we are in the 10th chapter, the dedication chapter of Shantideva's text that presents a very thorough and all-encompassing approach on how to conduct ourselves in such a way that we benefit others. So of course, our goal, not only in listening to the teachings, but in our life, is to reveal again and again how it is we can live our life in the best possible way, which has to do, or which we're talking about, has to do with our mind. And so this, again, referring to the first chapter and reflecting on that, the teachings and Shantideva's words on the first chapter should be so close at hand. We should remember that chapter so well that we will continually refresh our commitment to bodhicitta as being the best possible way to benefit ourselves in this life and to benefit others. And then practicing or experimenting on how that motivation applies or can be applied, that attitude can be applied as an antidote to our habitual ways of reacting to circumstances in our life, and see and observe and remember how it shifts and cuts through our habitual, almost instinctual reactions that involve our afflictions of hatred or aversion or clinging or desire or confusion. Even in the midst of confusion or the urge to retaliate, we can cut through that if we remember bodhicitta. And so throughout our day we should practice how that occurs, almost experiment, take the risk of cutting through our habitual reactive habits. And so the 10th chapter also, as we mentioned earlier, the dedication and aspiration is, or this chapter is both kind of creates a context or the words to accompany the attitude of transferring, of releasing and transferring virtue to others on the one hand, and on the other hand, it also provides reflections and contemplations that evoke our love and compassion and bodhicitta. So it's not just the verbally dedicating merit, but it's also including or being kind of broad enough. Our mind should be broad enough to also reflect on the objects of our dedication with love and compassion. Okay. So we are within the general category of dedicating virtue in order to free beings from particular forms of suffering. And that theme continues up through verse 47 from when we started with that, with verse 4, and then up to 47. Then from, and then, well, we're not there yet, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But right now, the whole, the bulk of the chapter is having to do with directing our attention towards the suffering of beings, reflecting on them, developing love and compassion, and then dedicating our virtue to the freeing of them of their suffering and their sort of the opposite of their suffering, that whatever form of happiness is the opposite of that suffering, and their speedy entry into the path of their own Buddhahood, their own awakening. And we are in verse now 32. Page 168. And this 32, I think, kind of starts with 31. 31, which we talked about last time, but just to repeat it, and he's also kind of summarizing the previous verses in 31 by saying, "And thus, by all the merit I have gained, may every being, leaving none aside, abandon all their evil ways, embracing goodness now and evermore." And then verse 32, then in particular, may beings not only say abandon their negative actions and strive for goodness, for virtue, strive in virtuous ways, but in particular, then for those who are like us, who are drawn to the Mahayana approach, that kind of virtue, and since, as we know, the Mahayana path is made up of the two kinds of bodhicitta, or we could say three kinds of bodhicitta. The absolute bodhicitta, which is none other than awakening, enlightenment, and then the bodhicitta of the path of intention and engagement, aspiration bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. So for those in that who are pursuing that form of virtue, in verse 32, he says then from bodhicitta, these three or two kinds of bodhicitta, may they never separate. And of course, in the commentary, it says it kind of puts it in the first person. May we also never separate or abandon this bodhicitta, both in attitude and in practice and in action. And may we never abandon working for the benefit of others, particularly by way of of course, the attitude, the aspiration is maintained by loving compassion, joy, and equanimity. These are four immeasurable attitudes of engaging, of aspiration, bodhicitta, and then with that as a foundation, and with those attitudes, then engaging in the six transcending perfections, six perfections. So may we never abandon them and constantly engage in bodhisattva actions. May we, or here it says, may they be accepted as disciples by the Buddhas, drawing back from what is demons' work. So here, our dedication of merit and aspirations of virtue is with the intention that we and others are beheld by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas with their love and their compassion, and that we, through the power of our dedication and our virtue, may we avoid or draw back or avoid what behavior and that we avoid circumstances that are counterproductive to our Dharma practice. And here, demons work here, the word is the maras. I don't know if I don't know, I'm sure we've talked about maras previously, and you've heard probably many teachings about maras, but that's what this intention. May we avoid all sort of demonic behavior or all behavior that will give rise to the maras. Of course, generally speaking, for Dharma practitioners, and practicing the stages of Dharma, then it's we become sort of the Maras become a problem. If we strive in our Dharma practice, if we strive in cultivating like love and compassion, and it's very challenging. It's more and more kind of going against the current of our environment, of our circumstances. Circumstances are becoming more and more corrupted by the afflictive, by mental afflictions. Obviously, every day we see that, and so those who are striving towards virtue as a means to attain enlightenment, as a means to gather the power to benefit others in a meaningful way, then we are subjected to maras if we do so without wisdom, without sharab, or prajna. And so as Shantideva has alluded to or referred to all throughout the text, even though the 9th chapter is the chapter on that specifically are the teachings on prajna, on wisdom, it's brought out at all the different stages of the chapters, the conduct, how important it is to develop the view of sublime knowing, of wisdom, because without that, then obstacles will definitely arise. Obstacles or Mara we will be subjected to Maras. And for Dharma practitioners, Maras arise in the in the guise of experiences of clairvoyance, having being the object of respect, experiencing kind of gain and kind of prosperity or flourishing of through the effect of virtuous karma, then our lifestyle, our circumstances can become more flourishing, and so all these sort of results of our Dharma practice can be obstacles, can be the work of Mara. And our actions that we do that will also create circumstances that are counterproductive, kind of demonic behavior or behavior that plays into the hands of Mara, are basically worldly, becoming obsessed by the bustle of worldly activities, just constantly striving in worldly ways. And worldly refers to how our mindset, it's not necessarily our actions, it's our mindset, our mindset acting out of basically the eight worldly, what are called the eight worldly concerns, or the eight that were blown about by the eight worldly winds, hoping for gain, fearing loss, hoping for pleasure, fearing pain, hoping for praise, fearing blame, hoping for fame, fearing obscurity, or being kind of being dissed, being disregarded, that we act driven by these hopes and fears in regards to what we engage in. Of course, the alternative for a Dharma practitioner, then we act with bodhicitta, love, compassion, joy, equanimity, generosity, discipline, patience, so on and so forth. So we should, through reflecting and learning these, what actually worldly means and what Dharma practice actually means, sort of on the ground, in your mind, then begin to, through introspective, the strength of your mindfulness and introspection, then begin to convert your attitude as you're engaging in your life's activities with a dharmic attitude. Okay, so so here we're making an aspiration to not be drawn into activities that will be counterproductive. Not only worldly bustling, but also being quarrelsome, being easily distracted, which means then we need to learn how to bring our mind into a one-pointed, the ability to be kind of one-pointed, and also well, actually, I remember in the teachings it says lazy people. I was going to say lazy. It can also mean maybe apathetic, but laziness, like it says, lazy people are not affected by maras, because laziness, is a mara. They're not affected by demons, because laziness is a demon. Sorry, this is the core of our dedication at this particular verse. And of course, to avoid or to become immune, to avoid the influence of demonic influence or the influence of maras, then we, as it's taught, we should abide in the view, not also have the attitude of not forsaking benefiting sentient beings, and try to act in accord with your vows, all levels of vows, your pratimoksha vows of the vow of refuge, not to harming, just summing up, not harming, and the vow of bodhisattva, bodhicitta vow of helping sentient beings, always having this attitude, this commitment to help, like that. So through maintaining this sort of abiding in the view and always remembering sentient beings and honoring your commitments, then you are immune to Mara's influence. Then so now in 33, Shanti Devas, we're moving, as we talked earlier, we kind of started in the particular sufferings of the hell realms, particular suffering of the tormented spirits, and on. Now we're here in verse, then to those practicing virtue, and then particularly Mahayana kind of virtue, making aspirations that they won't be thwarted or come under the influence of Maras. Then here, verse 33 has to do with those who, through the causes of virtue, are reborn in the higher realms. And may these beings, each and every one, enjoy an unsurpassed longevity, living always in contentment. May the very name of death be strange to them. So may they never hear of untimely death. Of course, never hearing the name of, like it says, oh, may they never even hear the name of that. That's sort of a way of referring to how it doesn't, like this is the Mara of death, one of the Maras in the sort of the category of the four kinds of Maras. One is the Mara of death. And so there's this Mara where we're always haunted and have a terror of our own death, having seen how fragile this life is. But here we're cultivating, and there's a time and a place to cultivate that attitude. But here, the theme here in the practice of the four measurables is rejoicing in the virtue of others, rejoicing in the happiness that comes from the virtue that others are engaging in. For those who are experiencing the fruits of virtue, here we're cultivating joy as we direct our attention to the objects of our dedication, those who are in the higher realms, and wishing them that not only are they happy now and have a long sort of long, comfortable, kind of undisturbed happiness, but may they continue, may they have more longevity, may their happiness be even greater, may it become immeasurable happiness, may their longevity be immeasureless, may their happiness be immeasureless with a perfect sort of wealth that involves no non-virtue. So this kind of cultivating this rejoicing in the goodness of other and the experience that others are experiencing as the results of their virtue. Now the attention is directed even more so, more exaggerated here. The next several verses, to the bottom of the page. There are aspirations and dedications. We're dedicating any virtue with the wish, the aspiration that the world transforms into a pure realm. In all 10 directions and on every side, may groves of wish-fulfilling trees abound, resounding with the sweetness of the teachings spoken by the Buddhas and their Bodhisattva heirs. And may the earth be wholesome everywhere, free from boulders, cliffs, and chasms, flat and even like a level plain, not having any sort of thorns or anything, and smooth like lapis lazuli. In the descriptions of pure realms, they use that as a description of how easy it is to travel because of the smoothness of the ground, like lapis lazuli. And if you know, lapis lazuli particularly has like streaks of gold, and of course in the Pure Land it's like that. It has these streaks of of many different colors, and that it feels like walking on a soft silk, firm but soft silk. And so we're making a dedication of our virtue that beings experience the earth like that the earth become like that. And then 36, for many circles of disciples may multitudes of bodhisattvas live in every land, adorning them with every excellence. So here then, in that pure land, may it be populated by Buddha, and may all those bodhisattvas, may all those Buddhas always have an entourage, a retinue around them. May the world as a pure land always have the mandala of the Buddha at the center of a retinue. And may they live in every land for a long period of time, adorning them with every excellence, adorning the land with every excellence, with through the power of their merit and their through the merit of the bodhisattvas, they are able to have the power to remove poverty and bring both the poverty of spiritual sort of poverty mentality or spiritual poverty, as well as material poverty. So may they, adorning them with every excellence, may they bestow perfect wealth, both of a material form, and particularly the wealth of Dharma. And may their longevity, may their merit, and may their riches increase. And may in those lands, may the teachings spread, and may the teachings of the Dharma, of the trainings of discipline of ethics, of meditation and wisdom, the three higher trainings, may they spread and consolidate those teachings from bird song and the sighing of the trees, from shafts of light and from the sky itself. And may living beings, each and every one, perceive the constant sound of Dharma, like that. The wind, listening to the rivers, the water, the wind, all the elements, the trees and any animals, may everything be may the message of impermanence, of the what are called the four seals, that all composite phenomena are impermanent, that all the mental afflictions are suffering, that things are empty and without self-identity, that nirvana, or the transcendence of suffering, is the presence of peace. So all these sounds of Dharma, both the deep Dharma of wisdom and the vast Dharma of compassion, resound at all times, everywhere, expressing these truths. And always may they come into the presence of Buddhas, meaning all beings. When I and all beings, may we come into the presence of the Buddhas, and meet with Bodhisattvas, offspring of the same. May we meet with the heirs of the Buddhas. With clouds of offerings unbounded, may the teachers of the world be worshipped. So may we know how to make offerings to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And of course, at this point, we practice visualizing Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and visualizing offerings. And we have pictures and images of Buddhas in a material sense, and offerings, material offerings. But they're very limited, of course, but they are just sort of keys, or they just should open up, or the real offerings are the offerings that we make with our mind, both the objects, the Buddhas that we envision as actually being present, even if we don't have a form, but just to know that there are enlightened beings that, with love and compassion directed towards us, are present, and that we make offerings to them as a means of cultivating respect and devotion. And so we practice that, like we do at the outset of teachings like this, the seven branch prayers, or the seven branches of practice. We should become familiar with those So in the future, should we encounter a Buddha in our perception, that we will know how to honor them. It's always astonishing when you read of the great bodhisattvas who traverse different dimensions, and then they come into the presence of a Buddha and they make vast offerings, visualizing offerings. How they can do that, just like that. Yeah, that's what we should try and get used to. So then, moving on. So that's dedicating merit so that the world becomes transformed into a pure land for beings. And 39, may kindly spirits bring the rains on time for harvest to be rich and plentiful. Of course, the plentiful harvest is the result of virtue as a cause. There's causes and conditions that give rise to experiences or give rise to results. So we're making aspirations that harvests are rich and plentiful. May princes rule according to the Dharma. May the world be blessed with all prosperity. So may we have to reach into our sort of historical imagination, perhaps, or just make aspirations that those who have the power and knowledge to be able to rule, to kind of, what do you say, manage populations, like a prince or a princess, a queen, a king, or a president, that they do so according to the Dharma. We can reach back in our own, because of our Dharma tradition, our historical Dharma tradition is from Tibet, and Tibet was transformed from a barbaric, raw, kind of ruthless area where everything was, whoever was the strongest controlled those who were weaker, and that was the way it went. And then Sonsen Gampo, the first Dharma king, arose there and was endowed with knowledge and compassion and power, and even he was only a older teenager, and had heard about the Dharma in India and conceived of it as something that would be important to import and convert his subjects. And so through his whole life, he put all his resources into sending emissaries, Tibetans, smarter Tibetans to India to learn the Dharma, and it was all funded uh, and impelled by the command of a king. And that's our, we can, from a Dharma point of view, that is our history. Not, we have one level of history of, or sort of geographical history of conquest and violence and invasions and suppression and so forth. But mentally, our inheritance is the Dharma, our collective karma of our mind's environment is the Dharma. And so that history, of course, began in India, but also a closer history would be the legacy of the three Dharma kings, particularly. That was the what was called the Golden Dynasty of the Golden Dynasty of early Tibet. Songtsen Gampo, as the one who they even invented an alphabet in order to translate and in order to translate from the Indian languages into Tibet, into this new Tibetan language, for the sake of spreading the Dharma, practicing the Dharma. And then further, during the time of Trishul Detsen, inviting Guru Rinpoche and Vimalamitra and Shantarakshita and others to have a big translation project. And then King Rinpoche, the third of the great Dharma kings who went back and revised the earlier translations, codified the language and the expressions, the jargon and so forth that were used, the equivalencies that were used, and really brought the canon, the Buddhist canon, to I don't know if it was a final revision, but it was he was the that was the end of that dynasty, King Rinpoche, and his heirs brought in the dark period of the destruction of the Dharma, and then after a while, then it again came back. So that so we're making aspirations that whoever has the wisdom and power and love and the karma to be in a leadership position, that they carry out their activities in a way that's in accord with the Dharma. May the world be blessed with all prosperity. May we be free of disease, war, and famine. Those are the three big sources of problems and misery in this world, at least from our human perspective, is disease, war, and famine, all of which result in what we might call untimely death. And then verses 40, may medicines be full of strength. Okay, that's easy to understand. May they do their work. May secret words of power be chanted with success. Of course, if we, this has to do with mantra, secret words of power, meaning mantras, secret mantras, and may they be chanted with success even when we begin our projects or when we begin a trip and we recite the prayer to the 4 categories of 8 auspicious noble ones. May that be successful. May that prayer that we chant be successful. May spirits of the air that feed on flesh be kind, their minds imbued with pity. This has to do with the spirit world, whether or not we have become so buried in materialistic habits and don't recognize or so forth. But certainly there's things, immaterial phenomena at work contributing to the rise and fall of happiness and suffering. And so, there's the elemental, the spirits that associate with the elements, and the rakshasas and yakshas and flesh-eating, what do we call them, ghouls and ghosts, various kinds. I think we talked earlier, various kinds of tormented spirits that are just move willy-nilly through space, driven by desire or hatred. And we dedicate our merit to them, that they be kind and that they develop a loving kindness and compassion. May they be imbued with pity, or may they be moved to have compassion, and may they be moved to have loving kindness towards beings and not harm them. And 41, in short then, may beings never suffer anguish. That has to do with mental anguish. And let them not be sick, meaning physical pain, nor evilly behave. May they not perpetrate non-virtue, which is the cause of suffering. So may all of that be uprooted and not be experienced, mental and inner and outer, mental and physical pain. May beings, may they have no fear nor suffer insults. May they not be disparaged or insulted and have no fear. Always may their minds be free from sorrow. May they be always happy and contented. May they be contented with happiness. We have this tendency to, when we're happy, to want it to be increase, and we're worried about its duration. So when happiness arises, may we completely be content with that happiness and live in virtue, practice virtue. When we're happy, recognize that happiness came about through virtuous actions, principally of our mind's attitude, and then some form of complementary verbal or physical follow-up with that attitude. And now I'm experiencing this moment of ease or happiness. And so having that kind of wisdom quality arise, that knowing quality arise in the face of happiness landing in our lap, may we recognize it and dedicate the merit that caused it to all beings, that they experience happiness. Whereas for practitioners, like it says in Lojong kind of teachings, our tendency when we're suffering is we're to see how we can practice in the face of suffering, how to convert that happiness, that suffering into some kind of Dharma practice, understanding how it came from karma, something. We're always a little kind of standoffish to our suffering and are trying to practice Dharma in the face of that suffering. When happiness comes, the tendency is to just consume it. We become consumers of happiness, and we don't apply knowledge, our ability to know about happiness. So he's not saying that here, but I'm kind of interjecting here that as practitioners, we need to get used to becoming happy, because by turning away from negative actions and being more and more drawn more easily to virtue, our minds becoming more flexible, and we're able to adjust our instincts and our habits towards virtue, that the results of that will be one or another form of mental and physical, environmental happiness. And so we need to know how to practice in that case. Otherwise, we will fall under the sway of maras. That's what's called maras, appearing in the guise of happiness. When that mara steals our sharab, our prajna, which is our ability to know. So anyway, so like that. May all beings always, may their minds be free from sorrow. But now he's turning attention again specifically to his to Shantideva's sort of experience as a part of as the congregation, or as the in the, what's it called? The assembly, the student body of Nalanda, and his Dharma habit of being a monk. And so here he's then directing his aspirations and dedications to monks, or in monasteries, particularly in general here, in monasteries, temples, and the like, that is anywhere where the Tripitaka exists. Tripitaka meaning the three baskets of the Buddha's teachings. On the basic level, Tripitaka meaning the Vinaya, the Sutras, and the Abhidharma. Then there's also the correlation of the Tripitaka, the Mahayana, and also the Tantrayana. But anywhere where there's the Tripitaka. In Tibetan and in Nepal and places you go, I don't know, in other Asian countries, but when we go to Asia, we see some temples, they have the victory banner, that victory banner mounted on the roof or on the top of the house. If it's a house, like a wealthy person, they'd have a copy of the Kanjar, the Tripitaka. And so if you see a victory banner, then that's indicative of the presence of the Tripitaka in there, the books of the scriptures of the teachings of Bodhisattva Muni. So in monasteries, temples, and the like, may reading and reciting widely flourish. So in those families that have the Tripitaka, may those families be harmonious as lay people. May the monasteries and nunneries, may they practice also reading and reciting. May it be explained. may it be listened to, may it be reflected on, may they reflect on it and then remember it. Remembering Dharma is a project, and may they never forget what they learned of the Dharma, and may they practice meditation. May they train in one-pointedness, and may they do so. May they listen and explain and reflect on the Dharma for a long period of time. Widely flourish. May they widely flourish, and may harmony prevail among the Sangha. May the monastic, the ordained, the so-called ordained Sangha, the bhikshu, bhikshuni, shavaka, shavika, and the lay practitioners, may they not be divided by the force of maras. May they not be out of, may they always be in harmony and not divided. And may its purposes be all fulfilled. May they, purpose here meaning that they, like the purpose of Dharma practice is to gain the qualities of enlightenment. And so through the presence of the Tripitaka and the teachings, the listening to, contemplating, and practice them, may they accomplish, may the purpose of those teachings be fulfilled. The Buddha didn't teach in order to create a system of like a religion. He taught in order to free beings from suffering. Of course, those beings who can be freed from suffering through the teachings are those who have the opportunity and the capacity to listen, contemplate, and practice in order to bring them to fulfillment, to be fulfilled, to be accomplished. So just like in the world, business and in agriculture or business and all the worldly occupations are often dominated by competition and quarreling and hatred and grudges and all the expressions of our kleshas. And so there's really no opportunity for these qualities to emerge, to arise from that. Just like a burnt seed is incapable of producing a sprout. And the same circumstances can arise in a Dharma community, a Sangha, where grudges and competition and so forth and conflicts will prevent the arising of the qualities of the experiences and realization. So our aspiration is harmony and fulfillment. 43. Now, may ordained monks intent upon the practice, meaning here the practice meaning of the three higher trainings, ethics, meditation, and wisdom, prajna. May they find perfect places for retreat and solitude, both the outer circumstances and the inner circumstances, all the provisions that are necessary, all the conditions that are important in order to practice. Not only a place and having the time, but also having the appropriate teachings, as well as the appropriate food and water and physical stamina. May they all those who wish, not just monks, but may all those who wish to practice the training, may they find perfect places for retreat. May they abandon every vagrant thought. In other words, may when they do go into retreat, may those practitioners be free of distractions. In the 8th chapter, the chapter of meditation, then Shantideva goes into a long discourse on the qualities of a place and the proper attitude to bring to retreat, kind of the inner solitude necessary. And so may they abandon every vagrant thought and meditate with trained and serviceable minds. May they practice their meditation and gain full control of their mind and body, and enjoy or experience the bliss of the flexible mind. The more flexible your mind is, the more of this kind of inner buzz of contentment, and to bring that further and further, more subtle and more broader experiences of that flexibility is what gives rise to the bliss of mind and body. May nuns have all their wants supplied. May they have robes and provisions. I don't exactly know what Shantideva's frame of reference is for the life of nuns, but we all know from current, current circumstances, nuns have a tougher time, seems like, as far as their material support and so forth. Although that, without going into it, that does seem to be changing. I mean, the previous verse of the women of the world gaining all the advantages enjoyed then by men, also now nuns are, it applies to nuns, that there is a fulfillment of that aspiration where both the nuns and monks are experiencing more equality and like that, and nuns also are gaining more power in the community. May quarreling and spite be strange to them. May their discipline be undamaged, and may they abide in their ordination, in their discipline, peacefully and with self-control and conscientiousness and carefulness, and always remember the Dharma as a support to their life, as to their practice. And may all those who have embraced monastic life uphold a pure and unimpaired observance. May all those who wish to enter into the monastic life, may they be allowed to do so. May they find the gateway to enter into a serious renunciation practice of ordination, and may they be able to uphold at all times the unimpaired observance of discipline. And may, through that discipline, as it says in the text, may the heat of the kleshas be cooled by the breeze of discipline. they say even when there were great institutions or even individuals who were very pure in their discipline, that they would give off almost an aromatic scent of perfume that people could smell outside of that place when they walked by. Then 45, then on the other hand, or however, may those who break their discipline repent. May they always strive to cleanse away their faults. So may those who damage or corrupt or break their discipline, may they, through implementing the four powers of confession, or the four powers of laying aside or separating from negative actions, may they implement those and cleanse away their faults many times throughout the day. As Atisha said, his ordination, he very rarely broke his ordination vows, but whenever he even thoughts that broke his ordination, then by the end of the day he would purify them. And similarly, Mahayana's bodhicitta vows, whenever he, through his vigilant introspection and mindfulness, whenever he recognized his mind forgetting or turning away from his bodhicitta vows, then before the noon or before night, he would purify them. Similarly with his Vajrayana Samaya. So here, meaning here at all times, meaning throughout the day, may you strive to purify your breakings of your various levels of ordination, including the 10 kinds of non-virtue, the 10 non-virtuous kinds of actions, killing, stealing, and so forth. So, and as part of our practice, of course, is to look back from our bed at the end of the day, on our day, and see how we did from the point of view of negative actions, negative speech, harboring negative thoughts, and then feel great regret and invoke the powers of the blessings of the antidote of the enlightened ones, and implement that through prayer or mantra, and then make a commitment to not indulge in physical, verbal, or mental actions like that again in the future, in your dreams, tomorrow, or the rest of this life and in next life. And then rejoice that you were able to do such a thing. Rejoice that you had the capacity and the integrity to recognize and reflect on your faults, your flaws of your mind, and that you have the capacity and the information about how to purify the effects of those actions. So rejoice. Okay, then number 45. May those who break their discipline, we did that, okay. in the second half of that verse is, and thus may they acquire a fortunate rebirth. May they not be born in the lower realms, wherein to practice stainless discipline, or in the lower realms is characterized by not being able to practice the qualities of the path, that is to say, making ethical choices, meditating, cultivating knowledge. And when you reflect on the condition, the experience in what are called the lower realms, as we've touched on many times here, if you put yourself in those realms, you can have a very vivid experience of what it means to not be able to even conceive of practicing virtue. So, and thus may they acquire a fortunate rebirth wherein to practice stainless discipline, where they can keep and practice purely the Dharma without allowing it to decline. Like that. Okay, then. Verse 46. May wise and learned beings be revered and always be sustained by alms. May they be pure in mind and may their fame spread far and wide. So here may those with wise, meaning may those, I guess we'd say people, may those beings anyway, may those who are wise, may those who have sort of correct discernment, may those who have an accurate appreciation of the truth, may they be revered, may they be honored for being on a level or on a plane that is free of misconceptions, misunderstandings, and delusions, and false assumptions that when we hear of or know someone such as that, may we revere them. In other words, create this karma of honoring those who have wisdom. It's a way of honoring wisdom, which then interdependently promotes our own path of wisdom. It could be that, we know people that don't really care about wisdom, that don't really, what do we call them? Apathetics. The apathetics. They're those people who, when they read philosophy, or when they're not moved. Their wisdom qualities are not at all stimulated or moved by that. When they hear about, sort of the inner workings of mind, they have no connection to that at all, have no interest whatsoever in that. And also those who are, when they see suffering, they're not moved by that in any way. So here we're making an aspiration that those who are wise, who do have an accurate understanding of some various levels of truth, even people like scientists and epidemiologists and people who are experts in their field, that they be honored as being, particularly those who are have the understanding and are learned in the Dharma, which is called the inner science of the teachings of the Tripitaka. May they be honored because of the Dharma being the source of happiness and benefit. And may they find what they need. May they always be sustained by alms, meaning may they always be supported and find what they need, whether it was given to them or they just have that the karma matures for them, that they are sustained in their life. May they be pure in mind, always. May they be pure in mind, and may their fame spread far and wide. So may they be free of pride and jealousy, which is a threat, which is a mara of someone who is very learned and wise. They also are subjected to the mara of pride. May they be pure in mind, free of pride. May they be pride about their own learning and jealous and competitive or jealous and kind of have rivalries with others regarding their qualities. They have pride in their own learning, qualities of learning and some levels of realization, and jealous of others' qualities and realizations. So may they be pure in mind, free of that, and may their fame, may their fame spread far and wide, but may their influence that comes with being well known, may they be well known for their wisdom and for their purity. Like that. And 47. May beings never languish in the lower realms. Again, may in the future lives, may beings never in their future lives experience the lower realms because of their poor discipline, because of their negative actions. And may pain and hardship be unknown to them. May they not have to experience pain and hardship. With bodies greater than the gods, may they attain enlightenment without delay. So, of course, that refers to may they not only not languish in the lower realms in their future rebirths, future lives, but may they also may they have bodies, may they take birth in bodies greater than the gods, meaning rather than being born in a God realm, in a heavenly realm, in a realm adrift on the waves of pleasure, which is the result of virtue, but rather may they be born with the precious human body, with the 8 freedoms and the 10 advantages of an individual, of a human that has the capacity and opportunities to practice the Dharma. That kind of a body, that kind of a human body, not just any old human body, which is obvious that there's nothing particularly precious about human body, the human life, the way that people use it. But a precious human body means a body that finds a mind that finds itself in a body that is free of the 8 conditions where Dharma practice is not possible, and that the mind finds itself in a body where there is outer circumstances that are conducive, necessary and conducive for Dharma practice, and inner circumstances, so forth. I'm sure I don't have to elaborate on that anymore. You've got to know that. So that's what's referred to here as with bodies greater than gods, like it says. Because that kind of a body is much more desirable, much more precious than a god's body. May they attain enlightenment without delay. May they quickly attain enlightenment, awaken to their own absolute nature without any hardship or delay. Okay, so that brings us to the end of that section, which was most of what that chapter so far was the subject of that chapter, which is the free from the various forms of suffering. And then, so then we'll end next time with the rest of the teachings on dedication. What is that? So now that we've learned this much about dedication, now we'll practice it. Again, even the smallest dedication, like just even the intentional avoiding of like stepping on an insect is virtuous. Small acts of kindness. And then again, the virtue of the 4 immeasurables, developing of how the flexibility of your mind to change from worldly concerns to bodhicitta, and then engaging in paramitas on a more virtue on a grand scale, and all that. We should, when we dedicate merit, we should hold that in mind, and we should also dedicate to a target, to sentient beings. And here with all the details of the dedications, we can kind of prevent ourselves from just sort of just thinking to all sentient beings without having it really hold any weight or having any content. But our dedication should be driven by a love and compassion and bodhicitta, recognizing virtue, recognizing the sentient beings in their various states so these all the teachings of the dedication 10th chapter are actually, we should practice chunks of those kinds of dedications with those teachings and the words in mind, so that we have a understanding of objects that we're dedicating the merit to, so that when we say all beings, it provokes, love and compassion based on our understanding of the whole range of conditions of sentient beings, the circumstances that they are experiencing. Okay. All the virtue of this practice and all that is gathered throughout the 3 times, I dedicate to all beings without exception, so that they may attain Buddhahood. Following and emulating the omniscient and courageous Manjushri, and likewise Samantabhadra, I completely dedicate all virtue. Since dedicating merit is praised as supreme by victorious ones of the 3 times, I completely dedicate these roots of virtue for the sake of practicing excellent conduct. May the teachings of Lord Buddha, the only source of benefit and happiness, long remain in this world. May the lives of those who uphold these teachings be as stable as a victory banner. Supreme Bodhicitta is so very precious. Where it has not yet arisen, may it arise. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but evermore grow and flourish.